I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Duluth Mayor Emily Larson is going to join us to talk about recommendations of the Downtown Task Force released just this week.
We'll have a report on the conversion of the old St. Louis County Jail into a unique apartment development.
And we'll talk with candidates running for assembly seats in northwestern Wisconsin during these final days of the campaign.
Those stories and more coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Denny, what a great way to start November with some unseasonably warm weather.
Other than perhaps the leaves turning and falling off the trees, it feels more like spring.
It does kind of feel like
it
spring,
does.
But winter's just
Very
around
welcome
the
weather,
corner.
that's for sure.
All right, well, let's get to the headlines.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. The campaign season is nearly over with just 4 more days to the election. Now, during these final hours, Democrats and Republicans will travel Minnesota and Wisconsin working to get the vote out. Wisconsin GOP candidates gathered in Superior today for a news conference at the proposed site of the Nemadji Energy Center. We'll have more political coverage later in the broadcast.
Emergency repairs have been completed on a section of the North Shore Scenic Highway threatened by erosion. A portion of Highway 61 near the new Scenic Cafe was closed for a few weeks while work was done to stabilize the road for winter. A permanent repair will be completed sometime next year.
In a sign that the COVID pandemic is waning, Essentia Health announced this week it'll begin allowing more hospital visitors. Essentia will now allow 2 visitors at a time in a patient's room, and they don't have to be the same 2 people on a given day. Visitation hours have also been extended from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., with care partners allowed to stay 24/7.
And the holiday season is upon us with the Salvation Army's Red Kettle Carnival at Bayfront Park next Wednesday. Nathan Bentley will light up the giant Bentleyville tree, and folks can bring a donation to get a glimpse inside. The Salvation Army's Red Kettles will be out beginning next Saturday through December 24th.
A task force formed by the mayor to revitalize downtown Duluth delivered its recommendations this week. The Superior Street reconstruction project, followed by the pandemic, kept people away from downtown, and businesses have suffered. Joining us now to talk about task force ideas to revitalize the downtown district is Duluth Mayor Emily Larson, and Shaun Floerke is the co-chair of the task force and president of the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. Welcome. Good to see you both. Thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, Mayor, there's a lot of chatter about this downtown task force.
Good.
What is it?
Well, in my State of the City this year, I outlined the need to really think about the challenges downtown. Downtowns across the country are really struggling with, changed pandemic work habits. We used to have 18,000 people working downtown every day.
That's changed.
That has changed, and people, the way people move around downtown, the way retail has changed. So really it was about solidifying some recommendations with experts, co-chaired by Shaun and Christy Stokes of Downtown Duluth, to identify strategies within safety, investment, activation, and vision for our downtown. We met for 6 months and have 27 recommendations.
Right.
So Shaun, what were the major issues that were identified that really need to be addressed in downtown Duluth?
Well, I think one of the leading factors is the fact that business environment and people coming downtown is changing, right? You don't have all the office workers, and you need to reactivate downtown. Huge housing opportunities, what a wonderful place to live. There's been uptick across America in homelessness and folks without housing, and that's impacting Duluth as well. I'd say it's the challenge and the opportunity to come together and try and solve.
Shaun, how safe is Duluth's downtown? Does it need more attention?
Well, if you start talking about crime statistics, it's pretty safe. But that's only part of it, right? It's how you feel. And, dark buildings, shuttered buildings, graffiti, lots of, it's a perception of safety, and that's what we want, right? You can quote statistics all day long. So there's work to be done, but part of the work is also inviting people in and having a place where people are active 18 hours a day, moving around, coming to things, sharing things, bringing their kids down.
Sure.
It's making it welcome and making it open for everybody. And that's where the perception and the real safety comes from. You got to pay attention with law enforcement and all that, and you've got to have people there and wanting to be there.
Mayor, beyond the perception, are there some specific safety concerns or problem areas that you see downtown and that you think some of the recommendations that are being put forward could address?
Yes, so we have 27 recommendations. About half of them actually address safety. And as Shaun said, some of safety is just getting more people because, you know, busy places feel like safe places. There are specific behaviors that are hard for people. Panhandling, which the United States Supreme Court, not local elected officials, has deemed to be an expression of free speech and protected. That is a behavior that's hard for people. That is allowable, but it's not okay to be aggressive. It's not okay to threaten people. It's not okay to go into a permitted space that a business has is permitted to use. So part of what we're doing is we have invested in mental health and chemical health workers. We have invested in so far about 254 new units of housing downtown with 510 more coming online. And we are going to be doing some very specific education with property owners, business owners to know your rights. What are the behaviors that we want to call out and address? We've also expanded a social work and clean and safe team. Our new police chief, Mike Sanoa, is a part of these recommendations as well and has increased foot patrol and a much more assertive presence downtown.
Mayor, you call the challenges facing the downtown a clear and aggressive agenda. How is that?
So I guess I'm not sure I totally understand the question, to be honest, but I will say with the behaviors that were, I get what you're saying, Denny. Okay, I did talk about how we did lay out, this is an aggressive plan. We have been very, very specific. We wanted tangible outcomes, things that we could do. We didn't want to talk about things. You will see in the report, all 27 recommendations are spelled out with the proposed impact, who the partners are, what's the timeline. We're going to convene quarterly throughout the next year to continue to get these objectives achieved and to continue to increase safety and increase investment, increase activation, light up storefronts, remove the blight. It is very aggressive from that
And you'll see that, some we broke it up between short-term and long-term. Some of the solutions are incredibly complex and going to take a lot of work, and we're up for that. And then short-term as well, and some of the recommendations are already accomplished, and people have been working. That's the beautiful thing about Duluth is folks come together and say, how do we solve this? What do we do? How do we change things?
Are there some of the recommendations, Shaun, that you're particularly excited about or that you think would really be more effective than others at addressing some of the core issues in downtown?
I really love so you'll see in there, our mental health court is expanding to try to reach folks. Emily already talked about increased chemical dependency and mental health help. I love the ideas that are shared collaborative solutions. There's just not one simple answer or one person who can fix all this. So to me, it's the coming together to solve for things. A new city prosecutor that started in August, who's dedicating and attending and trying to be a focus point. So it's those collaborations that I think mean the most.
And who are all of those partners that you think really need to come together and perhaps were represented on the task force?
Yeah, so we had 15 members on the task force. And so BOMA, the building management company or collective downtown, we had bank president, we had cross-sector of people, the YMCA, CHUM. It was a really dynamic task force with intention. And some of the things that I'm most excited about, so everyone has a part to play. First of all, this is our downtown, it's a neighborhood. And when you're concerned about your neighborhood, you get out in it, you walk around in it, you check in with your neighbors. We all have a responsibility there. Some of the other recommendations that I'm excited about is to revise a housing plan for downtown, a general downtown plan to really attack some of the problem properties that we think private landlords could be better stewards, and we need to hold them more accountable, including the shoppers parking ramp, which is truly
That's a busy
problematic.
agenda. How soon will that begin?
It's already underway. We already have about 6 of these recommendations underway. Some of them have been fully completed. I will reconvene people quarterly next year. I do believe that we will see progress on all 27 of these within the next year. Doesn't mean they're all going to be complete. It doesn't, but it does mean that we are going to be very intentional about making sure that we're charting and reporting out the progress that people are seeing downtown. And actually, I will just say, I saw my friend Carol Valentini downtown last week, and she said to me, it's happening. People are coming back. That feels really good.
Good to hear.
And Mayor, while we have you here, there was another announcement this week about the Get Green mobile app.
Oh, I know. This is so exciting.
Talk about that for a
I will talk about it. So the city of Duluth is really leading the state of Minnesota and our region in terms of our commitment to climate solutions and sustainability. We have an energy action team and staff, a sustainability officer, but there is also a citizens climate action plan. And the Get Green app is an expression. It's a way that people can log in on their phone, participate in ways to decrease their carbon footprint, to be more sustainable, and then we collect that data and we report out. We're the first city in the country to do it.
Wonderful. I wish we had a lot
I
more
know.
time. We
I'll be
don't.
back.
Mayor,
Right.
thank you. Shaun Floerke,
Yeah, good to
thank
see
you so
you.
very
Thank
much.
you.
You bet.
Thanks for having
Thanks.
us.
Affordable housing and restoring historic structures have been big topics in Duluth, but there's one project that marries the two in a very unlikely place, the former St. Louis County Jail. Producer Megan McGarvey got an inside tour of the site with videographer Thomas Soderberg to bring us this report.
In the nature of doing a historic reuse like this, there are some policy guidelines and some industry standards around preservation of key attributes of the building that make it historically significant, historically valuable. So there has been a lot of intentionality that's gone into preserving aspects both on the exterior and inside that really reflect and kind of tip the hat to the prior use, the original use as a jail. There's a structural component to retention of some of the bar segments as well. So we've removed many tons of steel bars from this building over the course of the project. We've cut out the majority of the bars in the building, and that has allowed us to really reconfigure the space as apartments as opposed to cells and corridors for patrolling, etc. The building was built on top of the cells using that steel structure as a key source of support for the upper floors. And so in going about removing a lot of the bars, we've needed to replace steel bars with other forms of support. So columns and C-channels that now bear all of the weight of the upper floors. That was a change that needed to occur, again, in that historic context. So making sure that we're paying homage to the original use and at the same time making it feasible to use as a living space for 33 households. You see, it's a little obscured, but you'll see it better upstairs. Those are called serveries.
Okay.
And right next door was the dumbwaiter system to bring food up.
Oh.
And so those serveries were used in conjunction with the dumbwaiter. And I don't know exactly how that worked. We're actually looking for people who worked here during the jail's kind of active use and trying to tease out some of those answers from them. And that was the original roof line of the jail.
Oh.
And so above that, what you see above was used as kind of an open air place for inmates to have recreation. The historic nature of the building is the reason for the quality of the materials and the quality of craftsmanship that initially was put in place here. So the bar is very high as far as restoring a place, both the exterior and the interior, to the state of its kind of original or historic significance period. We have had an extraordinary table formed with partners to make this project happen. And so there's been a lot of conversation about the sunsetting of the state historic tax credit, which we have used and have relied on to make this project possible. So there are sources like the historic tax credit that have been key, but also just the nature of the partnerships that we have been able to form to move this project forward have been fantastic and critical. And I think of the city of Duluth really at the top of that list as far as public partners who've helped us solve issues as they've arisen and make sure that we're able to complete the reuse, which is not easy and it's not inexpensive. There's an environmental consideration as well. The opportunity to reuse structures is a really important strategy to be much more rigorous stewards of our natural environment than we have been in the past. So being able to recognize and use the carbon that's encapsulated in this building, both in the materials but also in all of the work that was involved in bringing these materials to this location, stone quarried in central Minnesota, et cetera. I think that's a great opportunity just to be a sustainable member of the community. These plaster ceilings were all molded and falling in when we started this work. And I think that this is one of the elements that I think is so striking, because this plaster work has all been reconstructed, and that was really custom work. We have had some challenges, to be sure. Some of those come from just the nature of the reuse, taking a jail property and transitioning it into multifamily. Obviously the needs of residents are going to be different than the original jail needs. Some of the fact that our ideas about health are very different than what they would have been in the 20s when the building was built. And so, for example, the ubiquity of lead paint in the building has been a big barrier, very costly, and that's been actually a bigger issue than we expected at the beginning. Each of us on the development team are big believers in the value of historical context for communities. What we are today is in part what we have become from what we were before, and I think that buildings are important symbols, ways of kind of tracing our development as a community over time. And so to be able to be entrusted with an asset like this by the Duluth community has been really extraordinary.
Voters in northwestern Wisconsin's 74th Assembly District have two new candidates to choose from, as incumbent Beth Myers decided not to run again. The district covers all of Ashland, Bayfield, and Price counties, and portions of Douglas, Iron, and Sawyer counties. We invited Republican candidate Chance Green to be on our program, but after turning down our original invitation, his campaign has not responded to repeated requests. Joining us now to talk about why he should be the next representative in Assembly District 74 is John Adams, a Democrat from the town of Washburn. John, thank you very much. Why are you deciding to run for political office?
Well, I was on the town board in my township in Wisconsin, Washburn, and I realized that the state was not funding our local and state governments enough, and I started to learn more about road funding and then a myriad of issues that we're having at the local level, and the state aid to the local governments just wasn't happening. So I started to get more interested in that, and I started to look at where the state was headed in a safety for democracy point of view, and I said I didn't like the way it was headed, and I needed to jump in the race and do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about the life experience that you bring to the job that you think would help you to be an effective lawmaker.
Yeah, I'm a small business owner. I run a farm. It's called Yeoman Farm in Washburn, and I grow for a cooperative of growers. There's 20 farms in Ashland and Bayfield County. And I think that's a good economic solution for our rural districts like that. Cooperatives and unions help build the middle class, and I think we need more of them. And frankly, the erosion of our middle class over the years and the prices we're seeing in homes are really disturbing to me. So how to protect and rebuild that middle class is one of the reasons that I got into the race and part of my background.
As part of that, what do you see as the biggest issues, particularly in your district?
Yeah, we have all kinds of small businesses in the district, and coming out of COVID, they struggled to get back on their feet, and right now we see sort of a shrinkage in that middle class, like I said, in those small businesses, because frankly, all that COVID money, it gave a temporary living assistance to a lot of people, but it pretty quickly went right up to the top. And so those larger businesses that were able to capitalize on that really forced a lot of struggle in our economy in northern Wisconsin. And we need to have the governmental tools to rebuild that middle class in those businesses.
When you talk about governmental tools, do you have some specific ideas of things that you would like to see implemented, or things that Madison could be doing better to support the rural economy up in your part of the state?
Yeah, I think the most obvious one is return some of the state surplus. There's a $4.3 billion state surplus in tax revenue right now that we could be returning to our middle class. And Governor Evers did propose that, and unfortunately Republicans shot it down as a election year gimmick. And so I want to go down to Madison and back him up on that. I think that's something that's critical to our state and to boost our economy.
I found your website interesting. It's got a lot of nostalgic imagery of Norman Rockwell photos and 4 freedoms that you kind of categorize issues under. Talk about that platform and what falls under those freedoms that you find are really important to protect right now.
Yeah, thanks for checking it out and researching it. I took a lot of my historical reading from President Roosevelt, and he was our last great rural Democratic president in my mind. And he made a promise to Americans about 4 freedoms, and I can see how we need them right now. Freedom of religion, freedom from want, freedom of the press, and freedom of speech. And we see those crumbling in a lot of parts of our society. And the attacks that we're seeing on the Capitol on January 6th are reverberating throughout the state. So those institutions that we've relied on in our democracy, the electoral process, or things like the Wisconsin Elections Commission that I work with in my candidacy and the Republicans work with, they're really being attacked. And I think we need to refocus on what really makes us Americans. And those 4 freedoms are a bedrock of our society, and I think they need to guide our politics still. And President Roosevelt set the stage.
John, you're getting a number of endorsements, including that of U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin. What does that mean to your campaign?
It means a lot. Tammy Baldwin is very popular in Wisconsin. She's worked with farm groups and logging groups and all sides of the spectrum. And I first met her when I was organizing with Farmers Union. It's an organization that stands up for small towns and small farms. And she is critical to those wise use policies being passed in Washington. So one of the issues in the district revolves around wolves and a controversial wolf hunt we had in Wisconsin. And Tammy knows both sides of that issue, and so do I as a vegetable farmer. I know that I have an overpopulation of deer in my fields, and dairy farmers have an overpopulation of wolves in their fields when they're trying to protect their calves. So,
And John, with that, we have to say goodnight, so we appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you very, very much.
I wanted to see where that was going.
John Adams, Democratic candidate for Wisconsin Assembly District 74.
And Almanac North has also invited the candidates in Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District to appear on our show. Democrat Assembly candidate Laura Gapsky recently sat down for an interview with associate producer Megan McGarvey. Here's a portion of that interview.
My name is Laura Gapsky, and I first got involved in politics by running for my local school board. I'm currently on my 2nd term serving on the Superior School District Board, and what motivated me to run was wanting to bring a different perspective and a little diversity to our school board. Now I am currently running for State Assembly in the 73rd District after some serious consideration and wanting to take some of the work that I've done on the school board to a state level, because our public schools are facing some really large challenges throughout the 73rd District. When I think about abortion, I think about reproductive rights. This is a right for someone to be able to exercise, and I trust the constituents of the 73rd District that they will make the right decision for their families between them and their doctors. This is when people want to talk about freedom. Freedom of bodily autonomy is exactly what we're talking about. So I really have a hard time understanding the differentiation between wanting freedom, not wanting government involved in our lives, from a lot of, other party perspectives, and then saying that this is an appropriate way that people can directly be in the hospital office or doctor's office with a patient and their doctor. We need to invest in long-term road improvements. So it is cheapest to roll asphalt over these roads, but that's not necessarily the safest way to improve it, and it's really just, a Band-Aid. And so it's costing us more money long-term instead of just investing the money that needs to be to correctly do our roads.
The Republican candidate in the 73rd District is Angie Sapek, who has declined to sit down for an interview. We sent a camera to the Republican news conference in Superior this morning, where Sapek made an appearance. She did not comment during the news conference and declined an invitation to speak with our Megan McGarvey following that news conference.
Well, we're out of time, but you can keep up with our show by following Almanac North on Facebook and Twitter. Visit the WDSC website for program updates, news about the station and upcoming events, and download the PBS Video app to watch your favorite PBS programs on demand. And Denny, good luck to all of the hunters who are heading out for Minnesota's firearms deer season opener this
And they,
weekend.
I'm sure, will be out there by the numbers.
They will.
It's very popular.
And the deer population's high. So
That's exactly right.
thanks to our guests and the crew here in the studio. With Dennis Anderson, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.